Today I'm going to show you how to diagnose those pesky tire leaks. Some of them that are really fast, some that actually, you can go weeks before you have to add air. I have two vehicles now that both have these pesky leaks that have been nagging me over the winter. Spring now, I'm going to get to them and I'm going to show you how I diagnose them, how to fix them, and what to look for. It's going to be fun. So like I said, I have two tires. I have one on the truck right here that slowly loses air, very slowly. And then I have one right here on this car right here that just recently I noticed was slowly losing air that we're going to diagnose. So one of the first things you do is, and the easiest, is just check the tread area. And you don't always have to even remove it. You don't even have to jack it up like I did here. You could just drive forward, look at a section, notice where your valve stem is, and just drive forward and you're like, okay, I looked at that section, I looked at that section, I looked at that section. And if it's the front of the car, you can actually turn the wheel and have, a helper pull it towards you, and you look at the whole tread section. And if you can't find anything obvious, you can use something like, this is just dish soap and water, and you can go along and you just spray it on there, and then just watch for bubbles, of course. In this situation, we got there's a rock stuck in there. We look, there's another rock. You can pick those out. Bingo. Really slow leak. You can see it barely. It's shiny. We have a nail sticking right in there. Very, very, very common. And so we can just pull that out and plug it without even removing it off the car. But we'll pull that, and then we'll just plug it right up, and then we'll go over to the other areas of leak, like the bead and the valve stem on the other tire. So we're just going to use one of these little plug kits, and I will tell you, if you're not savvy with this and you've never actually repaired it, virtually all tire stores will repair a puncher like that for free, no cost. So just take it over to them, ask, or maybe $5-10. It's not worth doing it yourself. I know how to do it. I have all the tools to do it, so I can do it in a fraction of the time. I can do it in 5-10 minutes versus going over to the tire store, dropping the car off, waiting, everything else. Just an annoyance. So what we're going to use are these tire plugs. Now, you'll see these actually get quite a bit of a bad rap. Not because the plugs don't work, but because the condition of the tire could be unknown. If you drove on this tire flat, like flat, for a long time, you could have shredded the entire inside of the tire. If you don't have the puncher, if you don't have the nail still in here and you don't see what it is, that nail could have came in, or it could have been a knife blade and came in and went at an angle and sliced up the whole inside. If you don't know that, this is better left to somebody, a professional, to take it off and actually look at it. And that's why these plugs get a bad rap, is because people repair them and they don't know what they're doing. So this is just a straight in puncher. I love when the nail's still in there because I can see that it's just straight in. So it's just gonna be straight in, straight out. I'm gonna take, there's two tools you use, a reamer and the seal injector. So we just take out the nail, stick in the reamer, I leave the reamer in. We can start getting the plug ready. And I'll put links to these. These are really cheap on Amazon or something. Now, they don't taste like anything. Chew the end. I know. You chew the end a little bit, and it wettens and makes so it's not very sticky on the end, and allows you to start pulling it through. You get it. You pull it through that little eye of a needle. Halfway through. And at the very top, you should see there's a slit. So this is going to go into the tire like this, and then that slit is going to open up and allow it to pull out. Another thing I will say is people do this all the time without some sort of rubber cement. Use rubber cement. It seals up and prevents the steel cords from rusting, from water getting in there. So we just pull that out. You guys see? Yep. We just pull it out. push about 2/3 of the way in. That's it. There's the blade. Tire back on. Cut it flush. Tire back on. And go the rest of the life of the tire. Roofing now. Dang roofers. But you can do this on the car. You've done them on the car all the time. We'll top up the air in it. And this one's done. One of the next common pesky leaks on tires is the bead around the edges. And for this, I actually like to take the tire off. And what I do is, because you'll have a little bit of a pool area, and you can fill up this little area up with water or with the dish soap mixture, and you'll be able to see. Do this side, do the other side, you know, well, flip it and lay it here, then do the other side. This car right here, actually, once the aluminum ribs get, you know, 10, 15 plus years old, you can't even clean them up very well anymore, and they just start leaking. But there is one cure for that, if you do have a leaky bead seal, is to break the bead and to use something like this, which is pretty much like a rubber cement. I'll put a link below, but it's a rubber cement, so you pop the seal, you just smear this, you just paint this around, it just has a, I'll show you, it just has a rubber cement dauber. It's a liquid. It just dries to a really thin rubber, and it just fills in all those little imperfections if you have a little bit of a pitting that you can't get out, either on steel rims or aluminum rims. This stuff right here will seal it up for a long time. If you want to store it and store stuff like your rubber cement, store them upside down. It seals up and they don't dry out for a long time. This one's going on 4 or 5 years old. This can is still not dried up because I store it upside down constantly. Now we're going to look at this larger truck tire. And there is nothing, I don't see anything in the tread. So if I run it around real fast and I see no obvious nails or anything else in the tread, then the very first thing I go to is the valve stem, or actually the bead seal around here. So we're going to go straight to the valve stem with the soapy water, or any water. And for this, you can do it on the vehicle. I kind of like laying it flat because we need to get into the seal area of the valve stem. Okay, there's 2 areas to actually check on the valve stem. One is actually the Schrader valve core down inside, is to make sure it's just not actually leaking out the tip right here, but then down around the edges. And so we'll spray that around, and I actually see nothing, but we play with it. There we go. It's a very slow leak, but if you see those larger bubbles on the backside right there, it's leaking around the valve stem. Now I'd also pour a little bit of, you know, I'd put a little water or just soap right in the tip of the valve core if it wasn't leaking there. And we'd see if that bubbled over and domed over. But then to do the bead seal again, you when it's laying on its back like here, you can just pool it up like a puddle all the way around, and you'll be able to see this. Now, to do the valve stem, we do need to break the bead of the tire. So this right here is a valve stem that's out of the tire. This little ridge right here sits inside the rim. This little gap in here is where it seals around and down here. And the rest of this is what you see sticking out. And to install this, there's actually a couple different methods. There is a tool that allows you to rip this off and install it from the outside, and that does work. You end up with just a little teeny piece of rubber floating around in there. It won't affect anything. It won't hurt anything. It won't throw your tire out of balance. That is a good method to do it for those people that can't break the bead of a wheel. Otherwise, if you don't want to use that kit and you've never broken the bead of a wheel, just take it to the tire shop. They'll probably do it for $5, maybe $10, and you'll be done. For everybody else that wants to break the bead of a wheel, I will warn you, do not use the method where you drive over the tire or you put a 2x6 on here and drive up. You'll see the method all over YouTube to pop the bead. Why? Because it creases the cords in the tire, because you end up smashing and it creases down here, and it actually breaks the belting and you'll ruin a good tire. So it's okay if you're doing that method on an old worn out tire you're just going to throw away anyway, but don't do it on a good tire because you'll ruin it. I'm going to actually use a tool that I made. and I'll put a link to this video. So I'm going to break the bead real fast, and that allows me to push this down just enough to reach in there to install a new one. So I use this tool right here, super handy tool, super cheap, to remove the valve core, and that lets all the air out. It just unscrews. Sometimes if it's leaking out of the center, you're able just to use this tool just to tighten this little valve core back up, and that can stop the leak. Sometimes you can actually buy these and just replace this. Nobody ever does, but you can as well if it's leaking from the center. Now we got to break the bead. Now we can get in here. You can see the back side of the valve stem. To put a new one in, you just cut off the back side. Grab your little tool. This is handy. We'll just screw this on. This just lets me grab it with 2 fingers, and I can just pull it through. Lost a little chunk of rubber in there. I'll do. It's gonna stay in there. I didn't dig it out, or I'll dig it out. Thought I caught it. I didn't catch it. And it's very common for these things to tear, get rips in them, and sometimes they won't leak unless you kind of bend them one way or another. And what happens is a lot of times while you're driving, the centrifugal force throws it out, and so it'll leak. But when you park, it flops back straight, no leak. So very common. So you got to sit there and kind of play with it. So grab a new one. Here's our new one right here. We'll leave everything inside. All we'll do is take it off like that. This one, we'll just lube it up just a little bit with soapy water. Make sure that the hole is not all burred up or debris up or rusted up. And that's why I was leaking. We'll stick it through. They do sell like a little tool that screws on there. This tool works fantastic for it. It's just an all-purpose. We screw it onto the threads. I just grab it and pull it up. If you can't pull it up, you can also do something like grab. I do this quite a bit. There we go. It's in. That's a heavy-duty valve stem for higher pressure. That's why it has an extra bit on it. But that's all installed. Now we can just release my bead breaker and refill this up with air. Now, if we did have a leaking bead seal around here, that is where I would utilize this stuff right here, and I would just take it out and smear it around here. And you got to be kind of fast, so you got to smear it around and then allow it to pop in. So if both sides are leaking, you actually have to do one side, let it pop in, let it seal, break the other side, let the air back out, break the other side, and do the other side. You can't let this stuff really dry. It needs to be wet to seal the best. And it dries really fast, so you kind of got to be quick. But we can take this thing off. They're kind of a little bit off topic, but this thing right here, this is the Haltech lock-on tire chuck. I do not have any problem seating beads anymore since I bought this. A viewer recommended this to me. It just comes with this tip, and I had to go to the plumbing store and just, well, I already had these pieces, and just add some quarter MPT fittings and a air hose fitting. But this locks on so good to any tire, just locks on and fill up, that I can sit here and float it and get anything to seal. This one, I have a 3/8 gap all the way around, so this one would give you trouble normally because you're trying to hold it and trying to get it, and you're fighting it. Not with the Haltech. I can just, well, we'll take it off. I can plug it on, and it'll blow air. There we go. I do it by myself all the time. Love that little thing. It's worth it. I'll put a link below for it. So, quick recap. Treadwear. Always treadwear. It's like 98% of the time it's treadwear. Then, if it's not in the treadwear, I can't find it real fast, then I go to the valve stem. 1% of the time it's the valve stem. Maybe even 2% of the time it's the valve stem because it's virtually never the bead. But once in a while, it is the bead. So, tread. You can't find it there, go to here. Can't find it there, go to there, and you're done. If this is daunting, just go to the tire store. They know exactly what they're doing. They're good. They're professionals. They really do. And a lot of times, these little repairs are free or near free. So it's worth it, but it's also worth it for me not to spend an hour of my day, 2 hours of my day driving back and forth to them and waiting in a dirty waiting room versus just doing it myself in my own leisure time and get my vehicles back up and going. So, thanks for watching, guys. Put a link to all the products I used, the tools that I used, the specialty tools that I made, all in the video description. See you soon. Bye. Jump. Good job. Get it. 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 Oh, you tricked me. See you guys soon.